Welcome to the Books on Air podcast. I'm Suzanne Harris, and my listeners get the secret story behind every book. Joining me today is poet Fox Beyer. He's here to talk about his book, Letter Kindling, Igniting, Inspiring, and Evoking the Fire Within. Fox, welcome.
Suzanne, it's great to be on, and thank you for having me on.
Oh, it's my pleasure. You know, part of me always wishes that the listener could have heard us before we came on, because you and I have really had such a great time talking about so many things. I feel like we're friends, and I feel like I already know you very well. So it's a real pleasure to talk to you.
We've certainly teed this thing up and gotten things ready for the real show.
Exactly. And here comes the curious first question. You know, people do things for a lot of different reasons. I'll usually ask a writer about how they came to writing. But poets hold a very special place in my heart because it's such a unique venue. It's such a unique way to look at the world. When did you first pay attention to poetry, Fox?
You know, Suzanne, that's a really good question. I can't pinpoint a certain time in my life, but I can tell you this, that poetry came about in my life through a desire to write songs. And as a teacher and coach, I always told myself to communicate most effectively with my players and my students. I wanted to be simple but yet profound. And it was a friend of mine and I were driving home from a baseball game we had just coached. And this was 2014. And as was our custom, after games, we would always find ourselves listening to music of all types. And we're driving home, and he turns to me and says, "You know what, Fox? We should write a song." And something, Suzanne, just clicked. And the next day, I had something a piece of writing that related to his life as a minor league baseball coach, a minor league manager. And it was personal to him, very profound. It wasn't a song, but it was, to me, a poem. And, he told me under no terms, he said, "Fox, you need to keep doing this." And that I did. And that was July of 2014. And I just kept writing and writing and writing on days, even when I didn't necessarily want to write. And I began posting my poems on an online site called yourpoetry.com. And so it was very interactive. I could read others and comment on others as they could comment on some of my work. And then a colleague from that site actually emailed me and said, "Fox, I have this manuscript of poetry. Could you look it over? I'm thinking about getting it published." I said, "Sure." And I did. I also responded to that email by asking them, by the way, how do you go about, publishing a book, or even if you're thinking about it? They told me, and I got in touch with what was my publishing company. And by December of 14, it was in process. And by the new year of 15, I had a book of poetry. So I'm about 43 years old now, and so I guess the journey started at about age 35, and to be exact. So it wasn't way back when in language arts class, but I did have a LA teacher that told me that Fox Beyer sounded like a good author's name. I can remember that. But my, desire to write just grew out of a friend, a brother's product back in 2014.
I love that story. Partly because you didn't start writing when you were 5 or 15 or 16 in high school English class or something like that. All of a sudden, the poet, the songwriter, the person who wanted to get things on paper awakened. And I love what you said in the introduction to the book. The pages are glimpses of observations from experiences that I have had. It is my hope that you, the reader, can find a connection. Maybe in some ways we wear the same shoes. I loved that. And I think that if there are people listening to us, Fox, who think they might be able to write, a story like yours encourages somebody who is maybe on the brink and maybe they think, well, I really don't have anything to say. Start putting it down on paper and you might be surprised.
Yes, and I encourage them to do it in their own way, meaning if it's just stream of consciousness, if it's bullet points, do it how you do it in your own unique way. And to go back to what you previously said, I must, and this is sort of, I think it was probably unconscious, but I must give credit to my teachers growing up, because I think they, all of them had, especially my language arts teachers, had a hand in this. Everyone from, I'll just name them, Mrs. Cook, Mrs. Ross, Mr. Ranger, Mr. Foley, all of these people, I think, had a hand in giving me the tools to express myself like I did in letter kindling.
I love it. Now, you have cover art that has a really unique story, because it caught my attention when I went to Amazon and looked at the cover of the book. The cover art caught my attention. And so I've already asked you about that, but I want our listeners to hear the story behind that. You're a cover boy.
It's a great, yes. By default. So this is totally unintentional. This is back in 2012. A good buddy of mine, Joe Burke. Joe played for the Somerset Patriots, a baseball team that I coached for, a minor league baseball team that I coached for. Joe played for us from 2008 to 2011, and this was 2012, his first year out of the game as a player, and he was coaching a college team in Shelter Island, New York. Shelter Island is an island off of the coast of Long Island. So in order for me to get there from New Jersey, I took a bunch of trains all the way up through Long Island, and then to get to Shelter Island, I took a ferry across, and he picked me up, and a few hours later, we're at the game that he was coaching that night, and maybe the next day, we had an off day. There was no game. We went to a local little inlet to spend a few hours, swimming, hanging out, catching up with each other, and I found myself at water's edge contemplating whether or not I was going to go in the water. And then he from behind, he said, "Fox, I'm going to take a picture, make a pose." And so I did. And I kept that picture on my phone, not knowing that, wow, 2.5 years later, my publishing company asked me, what do you want the cover shot to be? We have a couple of images, or you can use your own image. And for the heck of it, I scrolled through my phone and I thought, this picture really depicts, what I'm writing about in the book. I'm bearing my soul in a way so that others can feel comfortable doing the same. And to me, it just matched the content of the book. But again, it was unintentional, and it was 2 years before the book was published.
I love that. Now, you also work with an illustrator, Stephen Whetstone. You and Stephen also have a connection.
Stephen and I are friends, are brothers. Our relationship goes back to August of 1997 at the University of South Carolina. So we're both Gamecocks. We were part of the Gamecock baseball program. He was a pitcher, a talented pitcher. I was a team manager and student coach. And through that time, we just became very, very close. He was, and always will be an amazing, talented artist. Things he can do with his hands, seemingly without trying, Suzanne, it is amazing. He, in the year 2000, for the team media guide, the Gamecock baseball team media guide, he drew caricatures of every single player and coach to be put in the media guide. Now, normally just take pictures. No, Stephen drew all of these pictures by hand. And to this day, and also because the University of South Carolina will always have a special place in my heart. But that media guide from 2000, I will always keep. We had a great season in 156 games, and Stephen's artwork is phenomenal. So when the my writing came out, I just said, man, he needs to be a guy. I need to at least ask him. So I sent him, Suzanne, all 68 of the poems in the book. And I said, Stephen, have at it. If an image comes to mind for all of these, some of these, a few of these, could you please get it down? And originally, the artwork was in, I think it's called gouache or gouache style. It's sort of like water painting.
Right.
And I still have the original copies.
Oh,
and they are
do
just
you?
Brilliant. Oh, they're unbelievable. Yes.
Oh.
In my desk. And I gently scanned those or took pictures of those to the publishing company, and those are the images of Stevens in the book. There are others. My brother Nick drew a picture in there. My uncle Carl Kilblock also has a drawing in there as well. But it's principally Stephen and his brilliant artistry.
Wow. Yes, I saw his work, and I believe it's gouache. I believe you're absolutely right.
Gouache, that's correct.
Yeah, I looked at his work, and I really am envious that you have all of these originals. You should do something with them. You should protect them, frame them, keep them, because that original art is just... You're right. He's extraordinarily talented. The thing that strikes me so much about what you and I have been talking about is how very, very, very personal this book is, from the cover to the artwork to all of the poems. How long did it take you to generate the 68 poems that you included?
The easy answer to that, Suzanne, is from July of 2014 to December of 2014. The
that
better
quickly.
Answer. I'm sorry?
That quickly.
Well, the better answer is 36 years. the better answer is 36 years. So, in all honesty, the experiences that I had throughout my life were what compelled me to write those things. I think each one of them was drawn from an experience that I had. and especially from